Hello, Kelly Bear here. Today I am with you for a follow-up video for a video that I made at the beginning of the year called 10 decks I would like to work with in 2022, and I will link that in the description box below should you be interested in seeing the original video. But it was inspired by Dawn Michelle over at Boho Tarot, who often makes videos about decks that she would like to work with and decks that she has worked with in the previous year. And so I wanted to do the same for 2022. I'd never really sort of done that before, really sort of tried to make myself accountable and make a video about decks that I'd want to look at. And it wasn't a decks I have to work with, it was decks that I wanted or would like to work with. So I wasn't putting myself under any sort of stress to like definitely have to work with these. I wasn't going to be giving myself a hard time about it. I knew that I was suddenly feeling the desire to nom 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 and buy up a bunch of new decks this year, which I did do and will make a separate video about the decks that entered my collection this year. These were the ones that I was like, you know, if I'm like, I don't know what deck I want to work with today, these would be the 10 decks that I'd go and look at and decide, oh, maybe I'll work with one of these today. And I'm going to show each one, I'm going to talk about each one in the order that I spoke about them in the initial video. So I'm going to try and keep this brief and just sort of crack on, basically. So the first one is the Ostara Tarot. There's the lovely, lovely backs. Very, very shiny. I'm not a fan of the cardstock, but I am a fan of the artwork. If you don't know, this deck was initially an independent deck created by 4 Canadian artists, and I really like how this deck is how they sort of approached it. They took a suit each and then they split the trumps, the majors, between them. And I know some people find this deck hard to work with because they don't find the styles cohesive enough for them, but actually I don't have an issue with the 4 different styles of artwork. I find they actually play quite nicely with each other. The colour palettes work really nicely and it's really, really lovely artwork. So I just got a text and it sort of made me jump, but yeah, so oh god, this is the deck, the card that's on the box. It's but despite my best intentions with this one, I think I worked with it maybe a few weeks at the beginning of the year, and then I got distracted by other decks. So unfortunately, this is a little bit of it started off okay, but didn't really follow through on that one. But it's still one I do want to like get in on. So I'm planning to work with it more in the new year, although of course when you get more decks coming in and more decks coming in, it's harder and harder to do because, you know, it's hard to spend time with all the decks, and yet I still want all the decks. I'm just having an all the decks kind of moment. The next deck that I mentioned was the Wooden Tarot from Skull Garden. This deck is awesome. It's definitely, I've noticed, definitely a darker season deck for me, in the sense that I like to use it during winter and autumn. So I used this probably up until maybe mid-March, and then it came out again as one of my autumn decks. And I sort of again did a bit of deep diving with it, got to a certain point and then just didn't carry on. But have used it for readings, but haven't. So like, there's different ways you can use a deck, right? You've got like just using it for readings, whether you journal about that or not. There's like the deep dives, which are classes like the, you know, journaling with it, like doing journaling prompts with it, or actually connecting with the deck itself and digging into, like, you can use tarot to dig into yourself, or you can dig into that particular tarot deck, and you can do both, obviously. But yeah, the Tarot Bound, like by Dawn Michelle as an example, to like as a deep dive for decks, I sort of didn't get as far as I would have liked. So that's one that I'm going to jump back on next year again. But I do love this deck actually, and also these two pair quite nicely together. Well, actually you can see the coloration works really nice between those 2 cards, and this one also pairs quite nicely with the Antique Anatomy. So if you're looking for some fun pairs, those 2 go quite nicely together. So yeah, so did okay. I was using them at the beginning of the year. I did a bit better on the wooden tarot because again that came out for autumn and isn't still out for winter. Is one of my winter decks. So the next deck, however, was the no-brainer. It's the Triomphe della Luna Paradoxical Rose. Now I did start the beginning of the year not really reading pips. I'd sort of moved away from pips for a short while and was reading more with situational pips, and I do go into that in the previous video if you want to sort of see my reasoning behind that. But I got reignited into I got back on the pip train because I discovered Marilyn from Tarot Clarity here on YouTube, and also via someone sharing him on one of his videos on Twitter, which was Z-Manzilla. He is over on TikTok. He is the one that I've spoken about before, who reads with his Sesamero, and it's really brilliant. He's a masterclass in freestyle reading, and they both really inspired me and reignited my excitement for Marseille and pip decks. And so yeah, this baby definitely, sorry, I'm just not supposed to be showing cards and I'm like not showing cards. This baby definitely got some playtime. And I pulled this one over the original coloration, which I do also have, and was the one that I would usually obviously use because that was the only copy that I had. But this babe, oh my god, I love this deck so much. Let's find some other funny devil. It's just so much fun. The characters are irreverent and mischievous and quirky. The Emperor with his like little dragon on a leash. Love it. Love the coloration. The other this is my favorite coloration. The other coloration I would rather like would be the Aquedoxical, but I think it was a very limited print run of those, of the pip version of the Aquedoxical. But yeah, did pretty well on that one, so yay. The next one that I mentioned was the Next Wild Tarot. The copy that I showed in the original video was the indie version, which I do still have. It's just I'm doing that because it's over there on the side. But I'm just showing you that I did indeed pick up the pocket version that I said that I wanted. I managed to get a hold of a copy, and this was one of the this was the deck that I wanted to use quite a bit this year, because I had previously spoken about constantly pulling the Sasaribito and then pulling the Numinous quite a lot as well, and I felt like I needed to like put them aside and just to pull this one over those two as much as possible, which I did do. I still did read with the Numinous, and I did still read with the Sasaribito, especially towards like as I got into autumn again, the Sasaribito, the lure of the Sassy Burrito. Sorry, this camera is not it's just not doing its job, is it? But yeah, so this is the mini version. Obviously the bigger version, it's easier to see the artwork, but I've got the indie version, which is very glossy. I would like the mass market version because it's matte. But yeah, so did well on this one as well, so really yay, not too shoddy. The next one, however, is the Sacred Rose Tarot. This is a vintage copy from the 80s, and basically I put this in the box, the tarot box that I have over there. I've got a couple of tarot boxes in the corner there, and I basically forgot about it. I didn't forget about it, but I kind of did forget about it, and also just wasn't drawn to it. And like I said, I had other decks coming in, and I was like, no, I'm actually not this year, not this year. So that was a meh. So what's that? That's 5. So we're halfway. I'm trying to keep this quite short for a change for me, right? Is the Shamanette Tarot. And this was a weird one because I tried with this one. It wasn't that I wasn't drawn to it. It wasn't that I sort of worked with it half-heartedly and then just stopped working with it. It was just I tried, and for some reason I could not get anything from it. It was just not. I think it was me again. At the beginning of the year I was in a weird headspace. I was feeling quite squishy, and I don't think I was in the right place to be working with this deck. So yeah, and it's weird because I have done a couple of readings with this before in the past, and I've enjoyed reading the book, but even the book wasn't giving me anything. It was very strange. So I was just like, you know what, let's just let it go. I don't mean let it go from my collection. I do still want it and do plan to get down to working with it, like doing a deep dive with it at some point, but it just wasn't the right time, and I just followed that. I was just like, you know what, it's fine, I've got loads of other stuff coming in, I've got plenty of other decks to choose from here from this selection, so I just sort of went with it. The next deck that I mentioned, so I've got 8 tarot and 2 oracle, by the way, so these last 2 are tarot, and then the next 2 I've got, anyway, I don't need to just get on with it. I think I need some caffeine or something. Actually, I'm quite thirsty. I need to slow down. So yeah, it's the True Heart Intuitive Tarot, and yeah, love it, and it still smells so good. I love the colours, I love the artwork, I love the interpretations, I love the book, I enjoyed reading with it. And I think this was one of the decks that kickstarted me using situational pips a bit more over Marseille at the end of last year, maybe. I think I got this towards the end of last year. And I don't mind the cardstock, I don't mind the borders at all. I really enjoy it. So yeah, this was another one that I think I did pretty well on, honestly. It's just different enough from Smithwaite to make it sort of quite, you know, interesting, but familiar enough that you can just sort of grab it and read with it. I mean, look, oh, just gorgeous. Gorgeous. I love this burgundy tone. It's a bit like the burgundy in the Pocar as well. There's a lot of burgundy in that deck. So yeah, really, I mean, Medusa, yes, I think so. So yeah, it did pretty good on that one. So I was pleased with that. Really enjoyed using that one. And the book is still on the side there for me to grab whenever I'm reading. It's like a go-to guidebook for me now for just tarot. I just really enjoy the way that it's written. The 8th tarot deck was the Thoth. Didn't read with this as much as I did last year. Last year I started learning with this? I think it was last year I started learning with this, and was just obsessed. But yeah, I just sort of, I do enjoy looking at it, but I haven't really, again, not really worked with it as much. I think I need to be in the right headspace and able to sort of sit down and read and I don't know, there's just something, it's got a lot of hype around it, which sort of, I think a lot of us could get in our own heads about this deck, unnecessarily so, and I've sort of got getting over that now, so I think, you know, come next year this will be one that I'll be pulling a lot more again. But yeah, the artwork is stunning. I would like to get another large copy. This is the large version. I do like it actually with the borders, surprisingly, but I would like to get a large version and just trim it and see how I feel about having it without the borders as well, and see which I prefer, because I've never used a borderless version, but I feel like I would want the larger size so the cards aren't too small. The artwork, I feel, benefits from being larger. On saying that, I would love a pocket version of this, and I don't actually have like a pocket classic Marseille, so again, next year might be the time I pick up a pocket Smithwaite, a pocket Thoth and a pocket Marseille. So being tentatively hopeful of maybe being able to do some studying tarot on the go at some point in next year, fingers crossed, who knows. Trying to be hopeful for 2023, trying to be hopeful. So the last 2 are oracle decks. That's what I was trying to clumsily say just a couple of minutes ago. And the first one is the Weaver's Oracle. Here's the gorgeous backs. And I didn't use this deck in the sense for readings or for monthly pulls, but I did use it in a different way. I've spoken a few times throughout this year about my solar return spread that I created myself using an amalgamation of different spreads and ideas and a number of different decks and systems, and I think I sort of missed the boat on making a video about that reading because it got later and later into the year. I mean, I did mine on my birthday because my birthday's in January, and it felt like a better time to do it than like, because I'm like, if I'm doing a year ahead spread, I'm always like, do I do it on the solstice? Do I do it at Christmas? Do I do it at New Year? Like, when do I do it? So I've just made the decision that I will just do a New Year, year ahead solar return spread on or just around my birthday, depending on what I'm doing for my birthday, right? So how I use this deck, so I get back onto point, was I pulled a weaver, 4 weavers, and it was 1 weaver for 3-month chunks of the year. So the first weaver would be for January, February, March, and then, you know, the next one. So this is the final weaver of the year for me here. So this is Storm, and yeah, she's the weathered woman of the dark drum. So that's how I was using it, and it was basically a weaver to sit with for those 3 months. And this is out because it was on my altar, so I could see it every single day. And, you know, I'm going into the book, reading the book, journaling about it, and trying to really sink into it, because initially I was doing like monthly pulls with this, but even that felt like too short a time to spend with a weave. I don't know, I just really felt like I needed to sink in with these characters. And I really enjoyed doing the 4 weavers for the year, and I think I will continue it for my solar return spread in the new year. And I will try and do a video this time around. I don't know if I'll show my personal spread. I might do like a dummy spread so that I'm not sharing too much of my, although I did share photos, I think, on Instagram of my solar return spread, and all the different decks that I used for that. But so I feel like I did well, even though I didn't really like use loads and loads of the cards. I still used it for a reading, and for, you know, this all-encompassing annual reading, and I feel like I've really got something out of it. And they've actually been really uncannily apropos, no, that's not the word I'm looking for, brain fog, apt for whatever I'm going through at the time. Interesting. So yeah, I've really enjoyed working with it, and I think I will continue. I might also next year try this for some other readings, but I will also still pull those 4 for the year. I really enjoyed that. And the final deck that I mentioned in that video was the Shaman Oracle. And my copy is trimmed. It's a very cheap deck. I picked it up for about £3 or £4 at the Works years ago. I think it was the Works or some other like cheap bookshop it was on Upper Street at near the Angel, Islington. That was where I picked it up, because I've had this for a long time. And yeah, basically it was the same situation as the Sacred Rose Tarot, where I put it in the box, my tarot storage box, and forget about it. So yeah, that went well. So let's have a recap. So out of all of the decks, the ones that I used quite regularly, that I did a really good job with, so the Triomphe della Luna, Paradoxical Rose, used that pretty regularly. The True Heart Intuitive, did a pretty good job of using that pretty regularly. The Next World Tarot, I used both this small version and my larger version, and sometimes I use them together because I'd use this for larger spreads and then get the big one out and my magnifying glass so I could really get in and look at the details in the cards. But because this is smaller, I could get like more cards out on the table, especially when I like to do like a 9-card box spread, the 3x3. There's a bit more space to do it because it's smaller. I mean, there's not more space, it takes up less space, you know what I mean. I did, you know, although I only pulled 4 cards mainly from this, I feel like I really sort of sunk into it and, like, you know, got something out of it. So I'm going to say that one, that's 4 out of 10. The ones that I did the one that I did okay with, the wooden, so that's half of the tarot decks, no, 4 tarot decks and 1 oracle deck, so that's, yeah, half and half. The ones that I did okay with, I would say at the beginning of the year, a little bit, was the Ostara, a little bit but not much. So it's more of a study, like reference deck for me this year. And the deck that I tried but couldn't, you know, I'm going to put this one in there because although I still, so I put this and the Ostara together, although I didn't use them for the rest of the year for different reasons. So, you know, that's 3 decks that I did okay on, and then just 2 decks that I would just like shat the bed on the trying to use them. So all in all, you know, half used regularly, and yeah, 3 kind of did okay on in some instances, and 2 I just didn't. And I think that's actually pretty good. I did better than I thought. I was thinking I was going to sit down and be like, well, I did really badly, but I didn't. I sort of, yeah, isn't that funny? I just sort of got it in my head that I'd done really shit with these, but I'm quite proud of myself considering the number of decks that came into my collection this year. Whoo! I said I was going to have a year on nom nom nomming the decks, and I was not wrong. And I slowed my roll because it was the first half of the year I really went nuts for donuts on decks, and I really did slow my roll because I just was like, I could see myself possibly slipping into just madness of buying. So I did sort of have to put a pin in it. But I've reached that stage where I've got stuff on my wish list that I want in the new year. I'm hoping there's going to be a couple I get for Christmas. I'm going to see what happens for Christmas and birthday, and then that's usually after my birthday is when I go, right, what else that maybe I didn't get off my wish list for those events, those occasions that I can purchase for myself, usually with money that people like family have gifted me for Christmas and birthday. So they're still gifts, they're just I've chosen them myself. Anyway, that's for a whole other video. I'm going to make a video about that, so keep your eyes out open for that one. But yeah, what about you out there? Did you have some decks that you decided that you wanted to work with, and how has that gone? Have you stuck to those, or did you fail miserably, or like me, was it like a really mixed bag? I think most people would probably be a mixed bag, right? Because you're just naturally going to be drawn to some decks over others. And I really, like, this became, you know, the next world was one of those that, a bit like the Numinous and the Sasarai Bito, was one of those where I'm like constantly sort of like attracted to it. And I think it is because it's so radical, and I can see myself and my community and my friends in there, and it feels very, you know, even though it's kind of like it's like some kind of after times, almost post-apocalyptic world depicted. There's like this hopefulness, and it is incredibly queer and very yeah, like I said, very radical. And it obviously I was drawn to it, especially given the current climate in the UK at the moment. We have a lot of strikes, and I wouldn't be surprised if it will be next year will be a year of general strikes. Yeah, who knows? But it feels like a very teetering, slightly revolutionary time here in the UK at the moment. I don't know. The peasants are revolting. And yes, up the worker is what I say. I support unions. I support strikes, even if it's inconvenient. The whole point is that it's meant to be inconvenient. Anyway, I've suddenly gone on a rant about unions and workers' rights. Tarot, come for the tarot, stay for the political rants. I think I've said that before. I think I said that in a video last week. I just can't help myself, honestly. I do try, but it's just in my bones. It's who I am. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, do let me know, like I asked just a couple of minutes ago, if you how you've done, if you've done a similar thing, if you've made videos about this and I haven't seen it, like, I'd love to, just let me know and I'll go seek it out, because I love seeing how people get on throughout the year with what their goals are, their tarot goals. So I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm going to go get some more water, maybe a cup of herbal tea. And I might film another video. I'll see how I go. What's the time? 10 to 3 already. This day has just flown by. Yeah, anyway, this is all unnecessary information for you. Boring. Okay. Take care of yourselves. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you. And I will see you in the next one.